start with number the negotiating tools that the pros don't want you to know by Jim Camp.
Here is a list of questions to remind you of the key lessons in the book. Start with number the negotiating tools that the pros don't want you to know by Jim Camp. 1. What is the importance of starting with no in negotiations according to Jim Camp's approach? 2. How can the strategic use of no in negotiations open up opportunities for mutual gains and avoid concessions? 3. What are some common traps to watch out for in negotiations, such as the yes trap, and how can they limit your negotiating power and options? 4. How can you effectively handle criticisms or attacks from the other party during negotiations, or attacks as described by Jim Camp? 5. What is the significance of understanding the other party's interests, needs, motivations, and desires in negotiations, as referred to as interests by Jim Camp? 6. How can you utilize persuasion techniques to convince and influence others to accept your point of view or proposal in negotiations? 7. How can you effectively handle deadlocks or obstacles in negotiations that may arise, as discussed by Jim Camp? 8. What is the importance of building solid relationships, establishing trust, rapport, and long-term connections with the other party for successful negotiations, according to Jim Camp's approach? 9. How can you effectively close the deal and finalize agreements reached in the negotiation process, as discussed by Jim Camp? 10. What are some strategies for staying cool under pressure, managing emotions, and maintaining composure in high-pressure negotiation situations, as emphasized by Jim Camp? 11. What is the significance of continuous learning and practice in improving negotiation skills and achieving success, as highlighted by Jim Camp in his book? These questions can serve as a helpful reminder of the key lessons in the book Start With No by Jim Camp and assist you in retaining and applying the negotiation tools and techniques discussed in the book. Answer key at the end of this video. Keywords. 1. Camp System Sense, the author's proprietary negotiation system, which focuses on creating a collaborative environment and eliminating pressure. 2. Vision, the desired outcome or goal that guides your approach in negotiations. 3. Digging for the truth, the process of understanding the other party's needs, interests, and motivations through effective questioning techniques. 4. The power of no, the strategic use of no in negotiations to open up opportunities for mutual gains and avoid concessions. 5. Concessions, giving up something in a negotiation to reach an agreement. 6. Yes trap, the danger of premature agreement that may limit your negotiating power and options. 7. Attack, criticisms or attacks from the other party during negotiations that need to be effectively handled. 8. Interests, underlying needs, motivations, and desires that drive the other party's positions in negotiations. 9. Persuasion, the act of convincing and influencing others to accept your point of view or proposal. 10. Deadlocks, impasses or obstacles in negotiations that require resolution to move forward. 11. Building solid relationships, establishing trust, rapport, and long-term relationships with the other party for successful negotiations. 12. Closing the deal, the process of finalizing and solidifying agreements reached in the negotiation process. 13. Staying cool under pressure, managing emotions and maintaining composure in high-pressure negotiation situations. 14. The power of practice, the importance of continuous learning and practice in improving negotiation skills and achieving success. Chapter title summary. Chapter 1, The New Reality of Negotiating, introduces the concept of no as a powerful tool in negotiations and challenges conventional negotiation methods. Chapter 2, The Camp System Sense, presents the author's proprietary negotiation system, the Camp System Sense, which focuses on eliminating pressure and creating a collaborative environment. Chapter 3, Discovering Your Vision, emphasizes the importance of defining your vision and desired outcomes in negotiations to guide your approach. Chapter 4, Digging for the Truth, discusses the significance of understanding the other party's needs, interests, and motivations through effective questioning techniques. Chapter 5, The Power of No, explores how using no strategically can open up opportunities for mutual gains and avoid concessions. Chapter 6, Don't Make Concessions, challenges the conventional wisdom of making concessions and advocates for finding alternative solutions. Chapter 7, Beware of the Yes Trap, highlights the dangers of premature agreement and encourages keeping the negotiation process open and exploratory. Chapter 8, Handling Attack, provides strategies for handling attacks and criticisms from the other party without losing focus on the negotiation objectives. Chapter 9, Moving from Positions to Interests, advocates for identifying and addressing underlying interests rather than getting stuck on positional bargaining. Chapter 10, Persuasion, the Key to Negotiating Success, explores the power of persuasion in negotiations and provides techniques for effective persuasion. Chapter 11, Dealing with Deadlocks discusses how to handle impasses or deadlocks in negotiations and overcome obstacles to progress. Chapter 12, Building Solid Relationships emphasizes the importance of building trust, rapport, and long-term relationships for successful negotiations. Chapter 13, Closing the Deal provides strategies for effectively closing a deal and solidifying agreements reached in the negotiation process. Chapter 14, Staying Cool Under Pressure offers techniques for managing emotions and staying composed in high-pressure negotiation situations. Chapter 15, The Power of Practice highlights the significance of continuous learning and practice in improving negotiation skills and achieving success. Jim Camp, the author of Start with Number: The Negotiating Tools That the Pros Don't Want You to Know, is a well-known negotiation coach and trainer with extensive experience in the field of negotiation. He has trained and coached professionals from various industries, including Fortune 500 companies, small businesses, and government agencies. Jim Camp is considered a leading expert in the field of negotiation and has developed his proprietary Camp system Sense, which focuses on a collaborative and principled approach to negotiations. He has also been recognized for his unique perspective on negotiations, challenging traditional negotiation tactics and advocating for a more strategic and principled approach. With over 3 decades of experience in negotiation training and coaching, Jim Camp has established himself as a respected authority in the field. His expertise is based on practical application and real-world experience, working with numerous clients to improve their negotiation skills and achieve successful outcomes in various negotiating situations. Camp System Sense, the author's proprietary negotiation system, which focuses on creating a collaborative environment and eliminating pressure. Title: The Camp System Sense. It was the roaring 1920s, and the mobster world was thriving with power struggles, turf wars, and high-stakes negotiations. In the heart of the city, Johnny the Shark Santoro was known for his ruthless tactics and cunning negotiation skills. He was feared and respected by his peers, but he had a secret weapon: the Camp System Sense. Johnny Santoro had developed his own proprietary negotiation system, the Camp System Sense, which focused on creating a collaborative environment and eliminating pressure. He believed that negotiation should not be about threats, coercion, and manipulation, but rather about finding common ground and building trust. One day, a rival mobster, Tony the Bulldog Romano, approached Johnny with an offer to expand their territories. Johnny knew that this was a crucial moment, and he decided to implement the Camp System Sense to handle the negotiation. At the negotiation table, Tony started with his usual aggressive tactics, trying to intimidate Johnny. But Johnny remained calm and composed, applying the Camp System Sense principles. He listened attentively to Tony's demands and asked probing questions to understand his interests and needs. He avoided getting emotional and focused on uncovering hidden values and potential trade-offs. As the negotiation progressed, Johnny used his expertise in the Camp System Sense to find common ground and propose creative solutions that could benefit both parties. He remained open-minded and flexible, adapting his approach based on Tony's responses. He also built rapport and trust with Tony by finding areas of agreement and showing respect for his perspective. In the end, Tony was impressed by Johnny's negotiation skills and agreed to a mutually beneficial deal. The Bulldog had met his match in the Shark, and Johnny's reputation as a skilled negotiator grew even stronger in the mobster world. With the Camp System Sense as his secret weapon, Johnny continued to excel in negotiations, expanding his territory, and gaining more power in the mobster underworld. He became known as the master of negotiation, and his approach of collaboration and eliminating pressure became the new norm in the mobster circles. The Camp System Sense became legendary, and Johnny Santoro's reputation as a shrewd negotiator spread far and wide. His success in the negotiation table not only secured his position in the mobster world but also earned him respect and admiration from his peers. The Camp System Sense became a legacy that continued to shape the future of negotiations in the mobster world for years to come. In the end, Johnny Santoro's story was a testament to the power of a well-crafted negotiation system. The Camp System Sense had changed the game, proving that a collaborative approach, focused on understanding the interests and needs of all parties, could lead to successful outcomes even in the most challenging and high-stakes situations. Vision: the desired outcome or goal that guides your approach in negotiations. Title: A Vision of Fortune. In the bustling streets of New York City during the 1920s, Salvatore Salvatore was a prominent figure in the mobster world. Sal had a grand vision: to establish himself as the most powerful crime boss in the city. His unwavering ambition and cunning negotiation skills were renowned among his peers. Sal's latest venture was to strike a deal with the rival mobster, Vincent "Vinny" Rossi, to gain control over a lucrative gambling operation. He knew that negotiating with Vinny would not be easy, but he was determined to achieve his vision. As Sal sat in his lavish office, he carefully crafted his approach, Keeping his vision in mind, he knew that his desired outcome was to gain majority control of the gambling operation while minimizing any concessions. The negotiations with Vinny were intense. Vinny was known for his tough stance and shrewd tactics, but Sal remained focused on his vision. He used his charm and persuasive skills to build rapport with Vinny and establish a positive negotiation environment. Throughout the negotiations, Sal kept his vision at the forefront, steering the conversation towards his desired outcome. He was strategic in his approach, asking probing questions to uncover Vinny's interests and needs, while also leveraging his own strengths and resources. As the negotiation progressed, Sal remained adaptable and flexible, finding creative solutions to overcome obstacles and reach a win-win outcome. He was willing to make concessions that aligned with his overall vision, but he never lost sight of his ultimate goal. In the end, after several rounds of intense negotiations, Sal's vision became a reality. He secured a majority control of the gambling operation, cementing his position as the top crime boss in the city. His reputation as a master negotiator grew, and he was respected and feared by his rivals. Sal's vision had guided his approach in negotiations, allowing him to achieve his desired outcome while maintaining his integrity and reputation. His success in the mobster world was a testament to the power of having a clear vision and using it as a guiding force in negotiations. With his new acquisition, Sal's criminal empire expanded, and he continued to chase his visions of power and wealth. His story became a legend in the mobster world, and his vision-driven negotiation skills were admired and emulated by aspiring crime bosses. Salvatore had proven that having a clear vision could be a powerful tool in achieving success in the ruthless and competitive world of 1920s mobsters. Vision, the desired outcome or goal that guides your approach in negotiations. Title: The Visionary's Gambit. In the roaring 1920s, the city of Chicago was a battleground for mobsters vying for power and control. Among them was Tony the Visionary Marino, a suave and calculated crime boss known for his strategic negotiations. Tony had a clear vision: to establish a monopoly on the city's bootlegging operation. He had his sights set on a prime location for a speakeasy, but it was currently under the control of rival mobster, Johnny the Hammer Sullivan. Tony knew he had to negotiate shrewdly to achieve his goal. Tony's reputation as a master negotiator preceded him. He had a knack for reading people and uncovering hidden opportunities. He meticulously planned his approach, keeping his vision in mind, to gain control of the speakeasy and consolidate his power. Tony reached out to Johnny, and they met at a dimly lit speakeasy, both knowing the stakes were high. Tony's cool demeanor and keen sense of observation helped him assess Johnny's interests and motivations. He listened carefully, using his negotiation skills to uncover hidden value and leverage it to his advantage. As the negotiation progressed, Tony remained focused on his vision, keeping his emotions in check. He used a combination of persuasion, logic, and charm to build rapport with Johnny. Even though they were on opposing sides of the negotiation table, Tony remained open-minded and flexible, willing to explore creative solutions to maximize value for both parties. He made strategic concessions that aligned with his vision, but never wavered from his ultimate goal. After several rounds of intense negotiations, Tony's vision became a reality. He secured a favorable deal, gaining control of the speakeasy and striking a mutually beneficial agreement with Johnny. Tony's reputation as a visionary negotiator grew, and he further solidified his position as a formidable crime boss in Chicago. With the speakeasy under his control, Tony's criminal empire expanded, and his influence in the city grew. He was respected and feared by his rivals, and his reputation as a master negotiator was unmatched. His clear vision and strategic negotiation skills had paved the way for his success in the cutthroat world of 1920s mobsters. In the end, Tony's unwavering focus on his vision had paid off. He had outmaneuvered his rivals and achieved his desired outcome through skillful negotiations. His story became a legend in the mobster circles, and his name was whispered with awe and admiration. Tony the Visionary Marino had proven that having a clear vision could be the key to success in the treacherous world of 1920s mobsters. Digging for the truth, the process of understanding the other party's needs, interests, and motivations through effective questioning techniques. Title: The Truth Seekers. In the bustling city of New York during the 1920s, the underground world of mobsters thrived. Among them was Vinny the Bulldog Russo, a seasoned mobster known for his sharp wit and cunning negotiation skills. Vinny had a reputation for always digging for the truth in his negotiations, and it had earned him respect and fear in equal measure. Vinny was determined to expand his territory and gain control of a lucrative speakeasy in the heart of the city. However, the speakeasy was currently under the control of another mobster, Joey the Snake Lombardi. Vinny knew that if he wanted to succeed, he would have to use his skills in digging for the truth to uncover Joey's needs, interests, and motivations. Vinny approached Joey with a proposal to negotiate a deal for the speakeasy. Joey was known for being shrewd and elusive, but Vinny was up to the challenge. He employed his effective questioning techniques, carefully probing Joey to understand his priorities and motivations. Vinny used open-ended questions to encourage Joey to reveal his true intentions. He listened attentively, watching for any subtle cues that could give him an advantage. He also used active listening to ensure he fully understood Joey's perspective. As the negotiations progressed, Vinny continued to dig for the truth. He asked probing questions to uncover Joey's underlying needs and interests. He remained patient and persistent, never settling for surface-level answers. Vinny also used his wit and charm to build rapport with Joey. He understood that building a relationship based on trust was crucial in negotiations. He shared stories and anecdotes, finding common ground to establish a connection with Joey. Through his persistent questioning and active listening, Vinny uncovered valuable information about Joey's motivations and concerns. He used this knowledge to propose creative solutions that would address both his own and Joey's interests. After several rounds of negotiations, Vinny's efforts paid off. He struck a deal with Joey that was mutually beneficial, allowing him to gain control of the speakeasy while also addressing Joey's concerns. Vinny had successfully used his skills in digging for the truth to navigate the treacherous world of mobsters and come out on top. With the speakeasy now under his control, Vinny's reputation as a skilled negotiator grew. He was known as the Bulldog not only for his tenacity in digging for the truth but also for his unwavering determination to achieve his goals. Vinny's success in the mobster world was a testament to the power of effective questioning and understanding the other party's needs, interests, and motivations. He had proven that sometimes, the truth was the key to unlocking success in negotiations, even in the dangerous world of 1920s mobsters. The power of no. The strategic use of no in negotiations to open up opportunities for mutual gains and avoid concessions. Title: No Concessions in the Roaring 1920s. The city of Chicago was notorious for its gangsters and mobsters vying for control of the lucrative illegal liquor trade. One such mobster was Frankie the Fox Marino, known for his cunning negotiation skills and strategic use of no to gain an edge in his deals. Frankie had his eyes set on a speakeasy owned by his rival, Tony the Tiger Caruso. Tony was known for his ruthless nature and was unwilling to part with his establishment easily. Frankie knew he would have to use the power of no to open up opportunities for mutual gains. Frankie approached Tony with the proposal to negotiate a deal for the speakeasy. Tony, true to his nature, was resistant and refused to make any concessions. But Frankie was prepared. He strategically used no as a tool to shift the dynamics of the negotiation. Whenever Tony made a demand or refused a proposal, Frankie responded with a calculated number. He didn't give in to pressure or make hasty concessions. Instead, he used no as a means to create leverage and open up opportunities for mutual gains. Frankie remained calm and composed throughout the negotiation, never losing sight of his vision. Gaining control of the speakeasy, he used his sharp wit and persuasive skills to present creative solutions that would benefit both parties. Tony, intrigued by Frankie's unwavering stance, began to see the potential for a mutually beneficial deal. He realized that Frankie was not just trying to take from him, but rather seeking a win-win outcome. The power of no had created a collaborative environment where both parties could find value. As the negotiations progressed, Frankie and Tony reached a compromise that was a win for both. They agreed on a fair price for the speakeasy, and Frankie also offered Tony a share in the profits of the business. It was a win-win outcome that satisfied both parties' interests. With the speakeasy now under his control, Frankie earned a reputation as a skilled negotiator who knew how to use the power of no strategically. He continued to thrive in the competitive world of mobsters, always looking for opportunities to create mutual gains and avoid hasty concessions. Frankie's success in using the power of no had not only helped him achieve his goals but also built a reputation as a fair and strategic negotiator. He had mastered the art of negotiation in the 1920s mobster world, where the power of no was a valuable tool to navigate the high stakes and achieve success. Concessions: Giving up something in a negotiation to reach an agreement. Title: The Art of Concessions in the bustling streets of New York City during the 1920s. Mobsters and gangsters ruled the underground world of illegal gambling and bootlegging. Among them was Joey the Shark Lombardi, a shrewd negotiator known for his strategic use of concessions to strike profitable deals. Joey had set his sights on a prime speakeasy owned by his rival, Vito the Viper Rossi. Vito was notorious for his tough stance in negotiations, and Joey knew he would have to use concessions wisely to reach an agreement. Joey approached Vito with a proposal to acquire the speakeasy, but Vito was unwilling to let it go easily. He demanded a high price and insisted on retaining a share in the profits. Joey was determined to strike a deal that would benefit him, but he also knew that concessions would be inevitable. Joey began the negotiation process by digging for the truth. He asked probing questions to understand Vito's needs, interests, and motivations. He listened carefully to Vito's demands and objections, and he used his sharp wit to respond strategically. Joey made calculated concessions to meet Vito's demands while also safeguarding his own interests. He gave up some of his initial demands and offered creative solutions that would benefit both parties. He remained flexible and open-minded, adapting his approach as the negotiation progressed. Vito, impressed by Joey's negotiation skills and willingness to make concessions, began to soften his stance. He realized that Joey was not just trying to take from him but was also willing to give up something to reach an agreement. The concessions made by Joey had created a sense of fairness and reciprocity in the negotiation. As the negotiation continued, Joey and Vito reached a compromise. They agreed on a price for the speakeasy that was favorable to both parties, and Joey also offered Vito a share in the profits as per his initial demand. It was a win-win outcome that satisfied both Joey's and Vito's interests. With the speakeasy now under his control, Joey earned a reputation as a skilled negotiator who understood the art of concessions. He had learned that giving up something in a negotiation could be a strategic move to reach an agreement that benefits both parties. Joey's success in using concessions had not only helped him secure the speakeasy but also built a reputation as a fair and strategic negotiator in the 1920s mobster world. He continued to thrive in his business dealings, always mindful of the power of concessions to achieve his goals and maintain a favorable reputation in the underground world of mobsters. Yes trap. The danger of premature agreement that may limit your negotiating power and options. Title: The Yes Trap. In the roaring 1920s, the Prohibition era was in full swing, and the mobsters of New York City were vying for control of the lucrative bootlegging business. Among them was Tony the Hammer Marino, known for his ruthless negotiation tactics and quick thinking. One day, Tony received a tip about a hidden distillery operated by his rival, Johnny the Snake O'Sullivan. Tony knew that securing control of the distillery would give him a significant advantage in the illegal liquor trade, and he wasted no time in reaching out to Johnny to negotiate a deal. Tony approached Johnny with the proposal to take over the distillery and offered a hefty sum in exchange. Johnny, known for his smooth talking and charm, was quick to agree. Tony, cautious but eager to seal the deal, fell into the yes trap. Tony failed to conduct a thorough negotiation and prematurely agreed to Johnny's terms without fully understanding the implications. He had fallen into the trap of premature agreement, limiting his negotiating power and options. As the days went by, Tony realized that the deal was not as favorable as he initially thought. The distillery required extensive repairs and upgrades, and the profits were not as high as he had anticipated. He also discovered that there were hidden liabilities and legal issues associated with the distillery that Johnny had conveniently omitted. Feeling trapped, Tony tried to renegotiate the terms with Johnny, but it was too late. Johnny had taken advantage of Tony's premature agreement and refused to budge. Tony found himself in a precarious position with the distillery that was draining his resources and reputation. Realizing his mistake, Tony sought advice from his trusted associate, Frankie the Brain Rossi. Frankie, known for his strategic thinking, helped Tony devise a plan to regain his negotiating power. Tony decided to leverage his strengths and make strategic concessions to create a more favorable negotiation environment. He used his connections in the underworld to gather information and build a case against Johnny, exposing his hidden liabilities and legal issues. He also sought legal representation to protect his interests. Armed with a strong negotiation strategy, Tony approached Johnny again, this time with a well-prepared proposal backed by evidence. He used effective questioning techniques to dig for the truth and understand Johnny's motivations. He remained patient and avoided falling into the yes trap again. After intense negotiations, Tony and Johnny reached a new agreement that was more favorable to Tony. He secured control of the distillery with better terms, including a reduced price and clear resolution of the hidden liabilities and legal issues. Tony learned a valuable lesson from his experience with the yes trap. He realized the danger of premature agreement and the importance of conducting thorough negotiations to protect his interests. From that day on, Tony became known as a strategic negotiator who never fell into the trap of premature agreement, and he continued to thrive in the mobster world of the 1920s, using his negotiation skills to secure his position and achieve his goals. Attack. Criticisms or attacks from the other party during negotiations that need to be effectively handled. Title: The Art of Defense in the Bustling Streets of 1920s Chicago. Notorious mobster, Vincent "Vinny" Santoro, was known for his sharp wit and quick thinking. Vinny was always on the lookout for lucrative opportunities, and one day he received a tip about the rival gang's illegal gambling ban that could be a game-changer for his operation. Vinny wasted no time in setting up a meeting with his rival, Frank the Bulldog Brannan, known for his aggressive negotiation tactics. Vinny came prepared, armed with his signature charm and cunning strategies to strike a deal in his favor. As negotiations commenced, Vinny presented his proposal to Frank. However, Frank lived up to his nickname and launched a verbal attack, criticizing Vinny's proposal and throwing accusations at him. Vinny was caught off guard by the unexpected attack, but he quickly composed himself and put his defensive skills to use. With his calm demeanor, Vinny listened attentively to Frank's criticisms. Taking note of each point, he avoided reacting impulsively and instead responded strategically. He used effective communication techniques to deflect the attacks and counter with well-thought-out responses. Vinny also employed his knowledge of Frank's interests and motivations, asking probing questions to understand his concerns and address them effectively. He remained composed and assertive, refusing to be intimidated by Frank's attacks. As negotiations continued, Vinny skillfully defended his proposal, refuting Frank's criticisms with solid arguments and evidence. He turned the attacks into opportunities to showcase the strengths of his proposal and the benefits it would bring to both parties. After a grueling back and forth, Vinny successfully navigated through Frank's attacks and reached a mutually beneficial agreement. He secured the rights to the illegal gambling den with favorable terms, including a reduced payment and a partnership that would benefit both gangs. Vinny learned the art of defense in negotiations, realizing that attacks and criticisms were common tactics used in the cutthroat world of mobsters. He understood the importance of handling attacks effectively by staying calm, using strategic communication, and leveraging his knowledge of the other party's motivations. With his negotiation skills and ability to handle attacks, Vinny expanded his operation, becoming a prominent figure in the mobster underworld of the 1920s. His reputation as a skilled negotiator spread, earning him respect and fear from his rivals, and he continued to thrive in the tumultuous world of organized crime. Interests, underlying needs, motivations, and desires that drive the other party's positions in negotiations. Title: The Hidden Interests in the Roaring 1920s. The streets of New York City were ruled by rival mobster families vying for control of lucrative illegal activities. Among them was Salvatore Sal Russo, a shrewd and calculated mobster known for his strategic negotiation skills. Sal had his eyes on a prime territory in the heart of the city, but he knew he had to strike a deal with his arch-nemesis, Tony the Hammer D'Angelo. To make it happen, Tony was notorious for his tough demeanor and ruthless tactics, but Sal was determined to outwit him. As Sal sat down with Tony for the negotiation, he carefully observed his opponent's words and actions, looking for clues to understand Tony's interests. He knew that underneath Tony's tough exterior, there were hidden motivations driving his positions. Using his keen intuition and sharp wit, Sal dug deeper into Tony's interests by asking probing questions. He listened attentively to Tony's responses, watching for any signs of underlying needs or desires. Through skillful questioning and active listening, Sal uncovered that Tony was looking for a steady income source to support his family. He realized that Tony's tough demeanor was a facade to protect his vulnerability as a family man. Armed with this insight, Sal tailored his proposal to align with Tony's interests. He crafted a win-win solution that would provide Tony with a stable income stream while also benefiting Sal's own business interests. He presented his proposal with confidence, knowing that he had tapped into Tony's underlying motivations. Tony was taken aback by Sal's astute understanding of his interests. He saw the sincerity in Sal's proposal and recognized that it could fulfill his needs while also benefiting Sal. After some deliberation, Tony agreed to the deal, and a truce was struck between the two mobster families. Sal's strategic approach and understanding of Tony's hidden interests paid off. He secured the coveted territory in the heart of the city, expanding his business empire and gaining a reputation as a skilled negotiator. In the end, Sal learned that in the world of mobsters, understanding the underlying interests of your opponents could be a game changer. It wasn't just about positions and power plays, but also about uncovering the hidden motivations that drove the decisions of others. Sal's negotiation skills and ability to uncover interests helped him rise to the top of the mobster hierarchy in the 1920s, earning him respect and influence among his peers. Persuasion: the act of convincing and influencing others to accept your point of view or proposal. Title: The Persuasion Game. In the bustling streets of Chicago during the 1920s, mobsters held sway over illegal gambling operations, speakeasies, and other lucrative businesses. Vincent "Vinny" Caruso was a suave and charismatic mobster known for his smooth talking and persuasive skills. One day, Vinny learned that his rival, Frankie the Blade Santoro, had plans to take over Vinny's territory. Determined to protect his turf, Vinny decided to confront Frankie and negotiate a deal to avoid bloodshed. Vinny knew that persuasion would be his key weapon in this negotiation. He carefully prepared his arguments, anticipating Frankie's objections and crafting convincing responses. He also gathered evidence and facts to support his proposal. As Vinny sat down with Frankie in a dimly lit speakeasy, he began to lay out his case. He used his charm and eloquence to present his point of view in a compelling manner, highlighting the benefits of a peaceful resolution and the risks of escalating violence. Frankie was known for his hot temper and stubbornness, and he initially resisted Vinny's persuasion. He pushed back with aggressive remarks and counter-arguments, but Vinny remained calm and composed, using his persuasive skills to address Frankie's concerns and offer solutions that would benefit both parties. Vinny employed various persuasion techniques, such as using emotional appeals, logical reasoning, and building rapport with Frankie. He also listened attentively to Frankie's perspective, acknowledging his concerns and finding common ground. As the negotiation progressed, Vinny's persuasive skills began to make an impact. Frankie's resistance gradually softened, and he started to see the merit in Vinny's proposal. Vinny continued to reinforce his arguments with compelling evidence and maintained a persuasive tone. In the end, Vinny's persuasive skills won the day. Frankie agreed to a peaceful resolution, and both parties reached a mutually beneficial agreement. Vinny successfully protected his territory without resorting to violence, earning him a reputation as a skilled negotiator in the mobster circles of Chicago. Vinny knew that persuasion was not just about smooth talking, but also about understanding the other party's perspective, building rapport, and presenting compelling arguments supported by evidence. His mastery of persuasion helped him navigate the treacherous world of mobsters in the 1920s and achieve his goals without bloodshed, deadlocks, impasses or obstacles in negotiations that require resolution to move forward. Title: Breaking the Deadlock. In the roaring 1920s, the mobster world of New York City was filled with power struggles and turf wars. Johnny the Fixer Russo, a seasoned mobster known for his shrewd negotiation skills, found himself in a deadlock with his rival, Tommy the Bull Malone. Both Johnny and Tommy were vying for control over a lucrative speakeasy located in the heart of the city. They had been negotiating for weeks, but their differences seemed insurmountable, and they reached a deadlock. Neither party was willing to back down, and tensions were running high. Johnny knew that he needed to find a way to break the deadlock and reach a resolution that would satisfy both parties. He decided to use his negotiation skills to find a creative solution. He invited Tommy to a meeting at a neutral location, a smoke-filled jazz club that was a known hangout for mobsters. Johnny came prepared with a plan. He laid out his proposal in a clear and persuasive manner, highlighting the benefits of a compromise that would benefit both parties. Tommy, known for his stubbornness and hot temper, initially resisted Johnny's proposal. He argued passionately for his own demands, and the deadlock seemed unbreakable. But Johnny remained calm and composed, employing various negotiation techniques to address Tommy's concerns and find common ground. He used active listening to understand Tommy's underlying interests, which included a desire for a share of the profits and recognition. He offered creative solutions that would meet both parties' interests, such as a profit-sharing arrangement and joint recognition for their respective contributions. Johnny also appealed to Tommy's ego, recognizing his reputation and skills as a formidable mobster. He acknowledged Tommy's strengths and contributions to the mobster world, which softened Tommy's resistance and helped to build rapport. After hours of intense negotiation, Johnny finally broke the deadlock. Tommy recognized the merits of Johnny's proposal and agreed to a compromise. They shook hands, sealing the deal in the smoky haze of the jazz club. In the end, Johnny's negotiation skills and ability to break deadlocks helped him to resolve the impasse with Tommy and secure his control over the speakeasy. The news of his success spread through the mobster circles of New York City, earning him a reputation as a skilled negotiator who could navigate even the toughest deadlocks with finesse. Building solid relationships, establishing trust, rapport, and long-term relationships with the other party for successful negotiations. Title: Bonds of Trust. In the gritty world of 1920s mobsters, trust was a rare commodity. But Vincent the Shark Centauero knew that building solid relationships was key to his success in negotiations. Vincent was a rising star in the mobster scene, known for his street smarts and strategic thinking. He had his eyes set on expanding his territory, and there was one particular turf he coveted: the waterfront docks. The docks were currently controlled by rival mobster Tony the Hammer Marino, a tough and ruthless figure known for his lack of trust in others. Vincent knew that negotiating with Tony would not be easy. Tony was known to be suspicious of others and was notorious for his short temper. But Vincent also knew that he needed to establish trust and rapport with Tony to have a chance at reaching a successful deal. He started by reaching out to Tony through mutual acquaintances, expressing his interest in a peaceful resolution and a mutually beneficial partnership. He made sure to approach Tony with respect and show genuine interest in understanding Tony's concerns and motivations. Vincent also used his charm and charisma to build rapport with Tony. He shared stories of their shared upbringing in the same neighborhood, and he acknowledged Tony's strengths and contributions to the mobster world. He made an effort to connect with Tony on a personal level, beyond their business interests. Over time, Vincent and Tony met several times to discuss their differences. Vincent was patient and persistent, using effective communication skills to listen to Tony's concerns and address them with empathy and understanding. He presented his proposals in a clear and concise manner, highlighting the potential benefits of a partnership between them. As the negotiations progressed, Vincent and Tony began to establish a bond of trust. They found common ground in their mutual desire for profits and power, and they realized that they could achieve more by working together than by being at odds. In the end, Vincent and Tony reached a deal that was mutually beneficial. They agreed to share control of the waterfront docks, with each party getting a fair share of the profits. The news of their partnership spread through the mobster world, surprising many who thought their differences were irreconcilable. Vincent's ability to build solid relationships and establish trust with Tony proved to be the key to his success. With Tony as his ally, Vincent expanded his territory and became one of the most influential mobsters of his time. Their partnership lasted for years, built on a foundation of trust, rapport, and long-term relationships that proved to be invaluable in the tumultuous world of 1920s mobsters. Closing the deal. The process of finalizing and solidifying agreements reached in the negotiation process. Title: Sealing the Pact. In the roaring 1920s, the streets were ruled by mobsters and negotiations were the name of the game. Joey the Fixer D'Angelo was one of the shrewdest negotiators in town, and he knew that closing the deal was the ultimate goal in his line of work. Joey had been working tirelessly to expand his illegal operations, and he had his sights set on a lucrative casino business owned by rival mobster, Vito the Snake Russo. After weeks of back-and-forth negotiations, Joey and Vito had finally reached an agreement on the terms of the deal. They had agreed on the profit sharing, the distribution of territories, and the operational details. But Joey knew that closing the deal was not just about shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries. It was about solidifying the agreement and making it binding. He had to ensure that there were no loose ends and that the deal was airtight. He arranged a meeting with Vito in a dimly lit speakeasy, a neutral ground where they could finalize the agreement. Joey came prepared with a contract drawn up by his legal advisor, Sal DeBrain Martino, who was known for his meticulous attention to detail. Joey and Vito sat at a small round table, facing each other with steely gazes. Joey pulled out the contract and began to review it with Vito line by line, making sure that both parties were in agreement. Vito, known for his cunning nature, tried to slip in a few last-minute changes, but Joey caught them all and negotiated them out with finesse. Once they were both satisfied with the terms, Joey brought out a vintage fountain pen and signed the contract with a flourish. He slid it across the table to Vito, who examined it carefully before adding his own signature. It was a moment of tension as they waited for the ink to dry, the fate of their deal hanging in the balance. With the contract now signed, Joey and Vito exchanged a firm handshake, sealing the pact. It was done. The deal was closed. Joey knew that his work wasn't over yet. He made sure that all the necessary paperwork was filed, and he instructed his team to implement the agreed-upon terms immediately. He almost made sure to keep the lines of communication open with Vito, maintaining a professional relationship to ensure the success of their deal. In the coming months, Joey's casino business flourished, and he expanded his influence in the underworld. He knew that his skills in closing the deal had been instrumental in his success. He had learned that negotiations were not just about reaching an agreement, but also about finalizing and solidifying it. It was a lesson that served him well in the cutthroat world of 1920s mobsters, where deals were made and broken with a single word: staying cool under pressure, managing emotions and maintaining composure in high-pressure negotiation situations. Title: Keeping Your Cool. It was the summer of 1925, and the heat was on in more ways than one. Tony the Bulldog Marino was a notorious mobster known for his ruthless tactics and cunning negotiation skills. He had built a criminal empire in the city, controlling various illegal operations from speakeasies to gambling dens. But his latest negotiation was proving to be his toughest challenge yet. Tony had set his sights on taking over the lucrative bootlegging business of rival mobster, Johnny the Snake Lombardi. The two had a history of bad blood, and tensions were high as they sat across from each other in a smoky back room of a speakeasy. Johnny was known for his hot temper and had a reputation for losing his cool in high-pressure situations. He was not one to back down easily, and Tony knew he had to stay cool under pressure to have the upper hand. The negotiations were intense, with both sides making strong demands and refusing to budge. Tony knew that losing his temper would only give Johnny an advantage, so he remained calm and composed, carefully choosing his words and controlling his emotions. As the hours passed, Tony could see Johnny's frustration mounting. He was red-faced and pounding his fist on the table, but Tony didn't let it rattle him. He maintained his poker face, sticking to his negotiation strategy and not giving in to the pressure. Johnny tried various tactics to provoke Tony, from insults to threats, but Tony didn't take the bait. He kept his cool, not letting the tension affect his judgment. He used effective communication techniques to diffuse the situation and bring the focus back to the negotiation at hand. After what felt like an eternity, Tony finally saw a crack in Johnny's facade. Johnny was exhausted from his own emotional outbursts and realized that Tony wasn't going to lose his cool. Tony saw his opportunity and seized it, making a strategic concession that satisfied both parties. In the end, Tony walked away with a favorable deal, securing the bootlegging business he had been after. He knew that staying cool under pressure was a key factor in his success. It had allowed him to maintain control of the negotiation process and not be swayed by emotions on provocations. As Tony left the speakeasy, he felt a sense of satisfaction. He had once again proven his reputation as a skilled negotiator who could keep his cool in even the most challenging situations. In the world of 1920s mobsters, where tempers ran hot and deals were made or broken in the blink of an eye. Tony's ability to stay calm under pressure had given him the upper hand and ensured his continued dominance in the criminal underworld. The power of practice. The importance of continuous learning and practice in improving negotiation skills and achieving success. Title: Mastering the Art. It was the roaring 1920s, and the mobsters of New York City were constantly vying for power and control in the underground world of crime. Among them was Vincent "Vinny" Santino, a young and ambitious mobster known for his sharp mind and smooth talking. Vinny had a reputation for being a skilled negotiator, and he knew that the power of practice was key to his success. Vinny had risen through the ranks of the crime family by honing his negotiation skills through continuous learning and practice. He studied negotiation tactics, read books on the subject, and sought advice from more experienced mobsters. He also learned from his own mistakes, analyzing his past negotiations to identify areas for improvement. One day, Vinny received a call from a rival mobster, Frankie the Fist Martino, who wanted to discuss a business deal. Vinny knew that Frankie was a tough negotiator, and he needed to be at the top of his game. He spent hours preparing for the meeting, reviewing his negotiation strategies and anticipating Frankie's moves. When the day of the meeting arrived, Vinny was ready. He walked into Frankie's office with confidence, his mind sharp and his words carefully chosen. The negotiation started off tense, with both parties pushing for their own interests. Frankie tried to throw Vinny off balance with aggressive tactics, but Vinny remained calm and composed. He used his well-honed negotiation skills, asking open-ended questions, active listening, and finding common ground to build rapport with Frankie. He also employed creative problem-solving techniques, offering concessions that would benefit both parties. As the negotiation progressed, Vinny could see that his practice was paying off. He was able to steer the conversation in his favor and make persuasive arguments that appealed to Frankie's interests. He also used the power of silence strategically, not rushing to fill gaps in the conversation, but instead letting Frankie reveal more information. After hours of back and forth, Vinny finally reached an agreement that satisfied both parties. Frankie was impressed with Vinny's negotiation skills and remarked on how skilled Vinny was in handling the negotiation. Vinny left Frankie's office with a sense of accomplishment. He knew that his success was not just due to his natural talent, but also because of his dedication to continuous learning and practice. He understood that negotiation was an art that required constant refinement, and he was committed to further improving his skills. Over time, Vinny's reputation as a skilled negotiator grew, and he became a force to be reckoned with in the mobster world. He continued to invest in his negotiation skills, always looking for ways to improve and stay ahead of his rivals. The power of practice had propelled him to success, and he knew it was a vital tool in his quest for power and control in the ruthless world of 1920s mobsters. What is the importance of starting with no and negotiations according to Jim Camp's approach? In the smoky back room of a speakeasy, Vincent "Vinny" Calzone, a notorious mobster in the 1920s, sat across from Salvatore Sal Moretti, a rival gang leader. The tension in the air was palpable as they faced off in a high-stakes negotiation. Vinny, known for his tough and shrewd negotiating style, had read Jim Camp's book Start With No and was employing its principles in this negotiation. He understood the importance of starting with no to gain the upper hand. "Sal, I appreciate your offer, but the answer is no," Vinny said firmly, leaning back in his chair. Sal frowned, caught off guard by Vinny's response. "What do you mean, no? We've been doing business for years, Vinny. This is a fair deal." Vinny remained composed, knowing that starting with no was a strategic move. "I understand, Sal, but I need more information. Convince me why I should say yes." Sal, taken aback, began to elaborate on his proposal, explaining the benefits to both parties. Vinny listened attentively, asking probing questions and challenging Sal's assumptions. He remained firm but respectful, using active listening and effective questioning techniques as he navigated the negotiation. As the negotiation progressed, Vinny continued to hold his ground, maintaining control of the process. He avoided falling into the yes trap, not giving in to pressure or making hasty concessions. He focused on understanding Sal's interests and motivations, digging deeper into the underlying drivers behind the proposal. Sal, realizing that Vinny was not easily swayed, became more transparent and rational in his approach. He provided justifications for his requests and addressed Vinny's concerns. The negotiation turned into a collaborative problem-solving session, with both parties working towards a mutually beneficial solution. After several rounds of discussions, Vinny and Sal reached an agreement that satisfied both parties. Vinny made sure that the terms were clear and documented in writing before shaking hands with Sal. As Vinny left the speakeasy, he reflected on the importance of starting with no and negotiations. According to Jim Camp's approach, it had allowed him to take control of the negotiation process, set the stage for collaborative problem solving, and achieve a successful outcome. He knew that continuous learning and practice of negotiation skills, as emphasized by Camp, were key to his success as a mobster in the cutthroat world of the 1920s. How can the strategic use of no in negotiations open up opportunities for mutual gains and avoid concessions? In the roaring 1920s, Joey the Blade Marino, a seasoned mobster with a reputation for being tough and cunning, was known for his strategic use of no in negotiations. He was adept at leveraging this powerful word to open up opportunities for mutual gains and avoid unnecessary concessions. One day, Joey received a call from his rival, Benny the Bull Capone, who wanted to discuss a turf dispute between their respective gangs. Joey agreed to meet Benny at a speakeasy in a secluded part of town, knowing that negotiations with Benny were always challenging. As Joey arrived at the speakeasy, Benny was already there, sipping on a glass of whiskey. The tension was palpable as they sat down at a dimly lit table. Benny got straight to the point. "Joey, I want you to back off from the territory near the docks. It's mine, and I'm not going to let you encroach on it." Joey smiled, taking a sip of his own whiskey. "Benny, I respect your turf, but the answer is number." Benny frowned, caught off guard by Joey's response. He had expected Joey to put up a fight, but not this early in the negotiation. "What do you mean?" "No, you know I mean business, Joey." Joey remained composed, knowing that starting with no was a strategic move. "I understand, Benny, but I need more information. Convince me why I should say yes." Benny, realizing that Joey was not easily intimidated, took a deep breath and began to explain his motivations for claiming the territory near the docks. He highlighted the potential benefits for both their gangs if they could work together to maintain control over the area. Joey listened attentively, asking probing questions and challenging Benny's assumptions. He avoided falling into the yes trap and maintained his position of not conceding too quickly. He focused on understanding Benny's interests and concerns, and he kept the negotiation focused on finding a mutually beneficial solution. As the negotiation progressed, Joey and Benny engaged in a back-and-forth exchange of ideas and proposals. Joey skillfully used the power of no to set boundaries, avoid unnecessary concessions, and create opportunities for mutual gains. Through strategic persuasion and negotiation techniques, Joey was able to convince Benny that a collaborative approach would be more advantageous for both of them. Benny, realizing that he could achieve his goals without resorting to a turf war, became more open to compromise. After several rounds of discussions, Joey and Benny reached an agreement that allowed both their gangs to operate in the disputed territory while avoiding any bloodshed. They documented the terms in writing and shook hands, sealing the deal. As Joey left the speakeasy, he reflected on how the strategic use of no in negotiations had helped him open up opportunities for mutual gains and avoid unnecessary concessions. He knew that mastering negotiation skills and employing them strategically, as he had done, was crucial to his success as a mobster in the fiercely competitive world of the 1920s. What are some common traps to watch out for in negotiations, such as the yes trap, and how can they limit your negotiating power and options? In the bustling city of New York during the 1920s, Johnny the Smooth Talker Santoro was known for his shrewd negotiating skills as a mobster. He had learned the hard way to watch out for common traps that could limit his negotiating power and options. One day, Johnny received an invitation from Salvatore the Fixer Rossi, a rival mobster known for his ruthless tactics. Salvatore had called for a meeting at his lavish mansion to discuss a potential business partnership. As Johnny arrived at the mansion, he was escorted to Salvatore's opulent office. Salvatore greeted him with a smile and offered him a seat. The negotiation began, and Salvatore wasted no time in presenting his proposal. "Johnny, I've got a great opportunity for us here. We can join forces and take over the bootlegging business in this city. What do you say?" Johnny listened attentively, but he knew the yes trap all too well. It was a common trap where the other party presents an appealing proposition and pressures for an immediate yes response. Johnny knew that falling into this trap would limit his negotiating power and options. He maintained his composure and replied, "Salvatore, I appreciate the offer, but I can't commit to a yes just yet. I need to understand more about the details and implications of this partnership." Salvatore's smile faded, and he tried to pressure Johnny into accepting the proposal with promises of wealth and power. But Johnny didn't give in. He asked probing questions, sought clarifications, and evaluated the risks and benefits of the proposal. As the negotiation progressed, Salvatore tried various tactics to push Johnny into a corner, including threats and ultimatums. But Johnny remained calm and composed, avoiding the yes trap and maintaining his negotiating power and options. He identified other traps as well, such as the time trap where Salvatore tried to rush the negotiation process, and the concession trap where Salvatore demanded multiple concessions without offering anything in return. Johnny navigated through these traps with skill, staying focused on his interests and objectives. Through his strategic approach, Johnny was able to negotiate favorable terms for himself and avoid unnecessary concessions. He documented the agreed-upon terms in writing and shook hands with Salvatore, finalizing the deal. As Johnny left Salvatore's mansion, he reflected on the importance of being aware of common traps in negotiations. Falling into these traps could limit his negotiating power and options, But by staying vigilant and employing strategic negotiation techniques, he had achieved a successful outcome. He knew that in the cutthroat world of mobsters in the 1920s, avoiding these traps was crucial to maintaining his position and achieving his goals. How can you effectively handle criticisms or attacks from the other party during negotiations, or attacks as described by Jim Camp? In the gritty streets of Chicago during the 1920s, Tony the Enforcer Marino was known for his tough demeanor and sharp negotiation skills as a mobster. He had learned through experience how to effectively handle criticisms or attacks from the other party during negotiations, or what Jim Camp referred to as attacks in his book. One day, Tony found himself in a heated negotiation with the rival mobster, Joey the Bulldog Bianchi, over the territory for their bootlegging operations. Joey was known for his aggressive tactics and was notorious for his sharp tongue. As the negotiation progressed, Joey launched into a scathing attack, criticizing Tony's business practices and questioning his integrity. He accused Tony of being dishonest and untrustworthy, trying to rattle him and gain an advantage in the negotiation. Tony felt the heat of the attack, but he remembered Jim Camp's teachings on how to effectively handle criticisms or attacks during negotiations. He took a deep breath, maintained his composure, and applied the techniques he had learned. Tony responded calmly but assertively, addressing Joey's accusations with factual information and evidence. He reframed the attack as an opportunity to clarify his position and present his case. He avoided getting defensive or engaging in personal attacks in return, as it could escalate the situation and derail the negotiation. Joey tried to intensify the attack, raising his voice and making derogatory remarks, but Tony remained composed. He acknowledged Joey's concerns, expressed his own interests and objectives, and sought common ground for a resolution. Tony also used active listening skills, paying attention to Joey's underlying needs and motivations, and addressing them in a constructive manner. He found common interests, such as the need for stability and profitability in the bootlegging business, and explored potential solutions that could benefit both parties. As the negotiation progressed, Tony's strategic handling of the attacks from Joey turned the tide. Joey realized that his aggressive tactics were not getting him the desired results, and he started to calm down. With Tony's composed and assertive approach, the negotiation gradually moved towards a mutually beneficial agreement. They ironed out the details, finalized the terms, and shook hands, putting an end to the intense negotiation. As Tony walked away from the negotiation table, he reflected on the effectiveness of handling criticisms or attacks during negotiations. He realized that maintaining composure, reframing attacks as opportunities, active listening, and seeking common ground were key techniques to diffuse tense situations and achieve favorable outcomes. Tony knew that in the tough world of mobsters in the 1920s, being able to handle criticisms or attacks effectively was crucial to maintaining his negotiating power and achieving successful results. He was grateful for the lessons he had learned from Jim Camp's approach, which had helped him navigate through challenging negotiations and come out on top. What is the significance of understanding the other party's interests, needs, motivations, and desires in negotiations, as referred to as interests by Jim Camp? In the roaring 1920s, the city of New York was a battleground for mobsters vying for control over various criminal enterprises. One such mobster was Johnny the Fixer Russo, known for his shrewd negotiation skills and strategic mindset. One day, Johnny found himself in a high-stakes negotiation with the rival mobster, Sal the Shark Lombardi. They were both interested in securing control over the lucrative speakeasy business in the city. Johnny knew that understanding Sal's interests, needs, motivations, and desires, as referred to as interests by Jim Camp, would be crucial in the negotiation. Johnny did his homework and gathered information about Sal's business operations, preferences, and personal aspirations. He knew that Sal was driven by financial gain, power, and reputation. He also knew that Sal had a preference for luxury and was keen on expanding his influence in the city. Armed with this knowledge, Johnny crafted his negotiation strategy. He knew that merely focusing on his own demands and concessions would not be enough. He needed to appeal to Sal's interests and find common ground to reach a favorable outcome. During the negotiation, Johnny took the time to actively listen to Sal, paying attention to his words, tone, and body language. He asked probing questions to uncover Sal's underlying needs and motivations, and he reframed the negotiation in a way that aligned with Sal's interests. Johnny highlighted the potential financial gains and increased power and reputation that Sal could achieve by collaborating with him. He emphasized the luxury and exclusivity of the speakeasy business they could build together, appealing to Sal's preferences and aspirations. Johnny also made sure to address Sal's concerns and objections in a constructive manner, showing empathy and understanding. He offered creative solutions that would meet Sal's interests while also protecting his own. As the negotiation progressed, Johnny's strategic approach paid off. Sal started to see the benefits of collaborating with Johnny, as it aligned with his interests and offered a way to achieve his desired outcomes. They found common ground and reached a mutually beneficial agreement. Through understanding Sal's interests, needs, motivations, and desires, Johnny was able to build rapport, establish trust, and achieve a successful outcome in the negotiation. He realized that truly understanding the other party's perspective was a key factor in effective negotiation, as it allowed him to tailor his approach and find win-win solutions. With the speakeasy business now under his control, Johnny solidified his reputation as a formidable negotiator in the mobster world. He credited his success to the significance of understanding the other party's interests, needs, motivations, and desires, as referred to as interests by Jim Camp, and vowed to continue honoring his negotiation skills in the cutthroat world of 1920s mobsters. How can you utilize persuasion techniques to convince and influence others to accept your point of view or proposal in negotiations? In the gritty streets of 1920s Chicago, mobster Tony the Snake Marino was known for his silver tongue and ability to persuade others to bend to his will. As he navigated the dangerous world of mobsters and rival gangs, persuasion was one of his most powerful tools. One day, Tony found himself in a high-stakes negotiation with a rival mob boss, Carlo the Hammer Rosselli. They were both vying for control over the lucrative gambling operations in the city. Tony knew that persuasion would be key in convincing Carlo to accept his proposal and come to an agreement. Tony carefully crafted his persuasive techniques, drawing on his charm, wit, and knowledge of human psychology. He knew that building rapport and establishing trust with Carlo was essential. He started the negotiation by finding common ground and highlighting shared interests, such as their mutual desire for financial gain and power. Tony utilized the power of storytelling, painting a vivid picture of the potential success and profitability of their joint venture. He appealed to Carlo's emotions, emphasizing the benefits and advantages of accepting his proposal. He also utilized the principle of reciprocity, offering concessions and favors to Carlo to create a sense of indebtedness. He framed his proposal as a win-win situation, where both parties stood to gain, and highlighted the potential negative consequences of not reaching an agreement. Tony was also skilled at active listening, paying attention to Carlo's concerns and objections, and addressing them in a thoughtful and persuasive manner. He used persuasive language, such as using positive and persuasive words, confident tone, and assertive body language. Despite some initial resistance from Carlo, Tony persisted with his persuasive techniques. He remained calm, composed, and confident, never losing sight of his objective. He utilized his powers of persuasion to counter Carlo's objections and win him over to his point of view. With each persuasive technique, Tony chipped away at Carlo's resistance and gradually influenced him to accept his proposal. After hours of negotiation, Tony's persuasive skills paid off, and Carlo finally agreed to a mutually beneficial deal. Tony's strategic use of persuasion techniques had once again proven to be a valuable asset in his arsenal of negotiation skills. He knew that persuasion was a powerful tool to convince and influence others to accept his point of view or proposal, and he continued to hone his skills to stay ahead in the cutthroat world of 1920s mobsters. How can you effectively handle deadlocks or obstacles in negotiations that may arise? As discussed by Jim Camp, in the roaring 1920s, the mobster scene in New York City was ruthless and cutthroat. Rival gangs fought for territory, power, and wealth, often leading to intense negotiations where deadlocks and obstacles were common. One such negotiation was between two notorious mob bosses, Salvatore Sal Martino and Vito the Hammer Rossi. They were vying for control over the lucrative speakeasy business in the city, but their negotiations had hit a deadlock. Sal and Vito had been negotiating for weeks, but they couldn't seem to find common ground on several key issues, including the distribution of profits in territory. Frustration was mounting, and tensions were high as both bosses refused to budge from their positions. As the negotiations stalled, Sal knew that he had to find a way to handle the deadlock effectively if he wanted to achieve his objectives. He recalled the advice he had read in Jim Camp's book on negotiation techniques. Sal realized that deadlocks were not uncommon in negotiations and could be resolved with the right approach. He decided to take a step back and reassess the situation. He focused on understanding Vito's interests, needs, and motivations, as well as his own. He realized that they both wanted to maximize profits and secure their turf, but they had different ideas on how to achieve it. Sal decided to take a collaborative approach. He proposed a joint brainstorming session where both parties could openly discuss their concerns and explore possible solutions. He created a relaxed and non-confrontational environment, where everyone's ideas were heard and respected. During the brainstorming session, Sal encouraged open communication and active listening. He acknowledged Vito's concerns and objections without being defensive or aggressive. He remained calm and composed, even when faced with challenges and disagreements. Sal also utilized creative problem-solving techniques, such as exploring alternative options and finding common ground. He emphasized the importance of finding mutually beneficial solutions that would satisfy both parties' interests. After hours of brainstorming and negotiation, Sal and Vito finally found the middle ground. They reached a compromise on the distribution of profits and agreed on a fair division of territory. They also came up with a plan to collaborate on joint ventures that would benefit both of their businesses. Sal and Vito's ability to effectively handle the deadlocks and obstacles in their negotiations had paid off. They were able to resolve their differences and come to a mutually beneficial agreement, thanks to the strategies and techniques learned from Jim Camp's approach. As they sealed the deal with a firm handshake, Sal couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. He realized that by effectively handling the deadlocks and obstacles in the negotiations, he had not only achieved his objectives but had also built a solid relationship with Vito based on trust and respect. In the ruthless world of 1920s mobsters, Sal knew that such skills were invaluable, and he was determined to continue honoring his negotiation abilities to stay ahead of the game. What is the importance of building solid relationships, establishing trust, rapport, and long-term connections with the other party for successful negotiations, according to Jim Camp's approach? In the midst of the Prohibition era in the 1920s, mobsters ruled the underground world of illegal alcohol trade. Among them was Vincent "Vinny" DeLuca, a cunning and ambitious mobster known for his strategic negotiation skills. Vinny had his sights set on expanding his illegal alcohol business, and he knew that negotiation was key to achieving his goals. He had read Jim Camp's book on negotiation techniques, which emphasized the importance of building solid relationships, establishing trust, rapport, and long-term connections with the other party for successful negotiations. One day, Vinny received a lucrative offer from a rival mobster, Tony the Snake Rossi, to join forces and form a powerful alliance. The Snake was known for his ruthless nature and was not easy to trust, but Vinny saw an opportunity to expand his empire and agreed to meet with him. As Vinny arrived at a hidden speakeasy for the meeting, he was on guard. He knew that building a solid relationship and establishing trust with the Snake would be crucial for successful negotiations. He greeted the Snake with a firm handshake and a friendly smile, setting the tone for a cordial conversation. The Snake was initially skeptical of Vinny's intentions, but Vinny used his persuasion skills, as learned from Jim Camp's approach, to establish rapport. He listened attentively to the Snake's concerns and showed empathy. He also shared his own objectives and motivations in a transparent manner, creating a sense of mutual understanding. As the negotiations progressed, Vinny continued to emphasize the importance of long-term connections. He proposed joint ventures that would benefit both parties and foster trust and collaboration. He also showcased his reliability and integrity by keeping his promises and delivering on his commitments during the negotiation process. Despite the Snake's initial skepticism, Vinny's strategic approach paid off. The Snake gradually began to trust Vinny, and they built a solid relationship based on mutual respect and understanding. They were able to reach a mutually beneficial agreement that would allow them to join forces and expand their illegal alcohol business together. With the deal sealed, Vinny and the Snake shook hands, knowing that their alliance would be a formidable force in the mobster world. Vinny understood that building solid relationships, establishing trust, rapport, and long-term connections were critical to successful negotiations, as emphasized by Jim Camp's approach. He was determined to continue honing his negotiation skills and maintaining strong relationships to achieve his ambitious goals in the cutthroat world of 1920s mobsters. How can you effectively close the deal and finalize agreements reached in the negotiation process? As discussed by Jim Camp, in the roaring 1920s, the illegal liquor trade was booming, and mobsters were vying for power in the underworld. One such mobster was Tommy the Fixer Malone, known for his shrewd negotiation skills. Tommy had been in negotiations with a rival gang led by Frankie the Hammer Rooster for weeks. Both sides were seeking to establish a profitable partnership, but the talks had been challenging, with many disagreements and tense moments. However, Tommy had been applying the negotiation techniques he had learned from Jim Camp's approach, and he was determined to close the deal and solidify the agreement. The final negotiation meeting was set in a speakeasy on the outskirts of town. Tommy arrived, wearing his signature fedora and a confident smile. He knew that effectively closing the deal was crucial. As discussed by Jim Camp, he was well prepared, armed with his negotiation playbook, and ready to put his skills to the test. As the negotiation progressed, tensions ran high. Both Tommy and Frankie held firm to their positions, and it seemed like an impasse was reached. But Tommy remained calm and composed, staying cool under pressure as he navigated through the obstacles. He utilized persuasive techniques from Jim Camp's approach, presenting compelling arguments backed by data and facts. He also addressed Frankie's concerns and needs, showing empathy and understanding. He made concessions where necessary but always kept his eye on the main goal, closing the deal. After hours of intense negotiation, Tommy and Frankie finally reached an agreement. They shook hands, sealing the deal, and finalizing the agreements they had reached in the negotiation process. Tommy had effectively closed the deal, utilizing the negotiation tools he had learned from Jim Camp's approach. With the deal closed, Tommy emerged victorious. Knowing that his strategic negotiation skills had paid off, he had successfully navigated the challenges, stayed cool under pressure, and effectively closed the deal. As discussed by Jim Camp, the partnership with Frankie's gang would bring him significant profits in the illegal liquor trade, solidifying his power in the mobster world of the 1920s. Tommy left the speakeasy with a sense of accomplishment and determination to continue honoring his negotiation skills to achieve further success in the cutthroat world of mobsters. What are some strategies for staying cool under pressure, managing emotions, and maintaining composure in high-pressure negotiation situations, as emphasized by Jim Camp? In the bustling streets of 1920s Chicago, mobster Jack the Snake Thompson was known for his fierce negotiation skills. He was feared and respected among the underworld for his ability to stay cool under pressure, no matter how intense the situation. One day, Jack found himself in a high-stakes negotiation with rival mobster Tony the Bull Marino. The two had conflicting interests and were vying for control of the lucrative speakeasy business in the city. The tension was palpable as they sat across from each other in a smoky, dimly lit back room of a speakeasy. As the negotiation progressed, Tony tried to push Jack's buttons, using aggressive tactics and making personal attacks. He tried to rile Jack up, hoping to throw him off his game. However, Jack remained calm and composed. Remembering the strategies for staying cool under pressure that he had learned from Jim Camp, he took deep breaths to regulate his emotions and maintain eye contact with Tony without showing any signs of agitation. He listened attentively to Tony's arguments without interrupting, managing his emotions and avoiding impulsive reactions. He focused on the issues at hand and avoided getting personal, knowing that emotional outbursts could jeopardize the negotiation process. When Tony presented a particularly challenging demand, Jack took a moment to gather his thoughts before responding. He used his negotiation skills to counter with logical and strategic arguments, backed by facts and evidence. He remained assertive but respectful, avoiding the yes trap that Jim Camp had warned about, which could lead to concessions that were not in his best interest. As the negotiation continued, Tony grew increasingly frustrated with Jack's composure and refusal to cave to his demands. He raised his voice and tried to intimidate Jack, but Jack remained unfazed, remembering Jim Camp's emphasis on maintaining composure in high-pressure situations. In the end, Jack's cool-headedness paid off. He successfully navigated the negotiation with Tony, reaching a mutually beneficial agreement that satisfied both parties. They shook hands, and Jack left the back room with a sense of accomplishment, knowing that he had effectively managed his emotions and maintained composure under pressure. As emphasized by Jim Camp's approach, Jack's reputation as a skilled negotiator grew in the mobster world of Chicago, earning him respect and admiration among his peers. He continued to apply the strategies he had learned from Jim Camp, knowing that staying cool under pressure was a key factor in achieving success in the ruthless world of mobsters in the 1920s. What is the significance of continuous learning and practice in improving negotiation skills and achieving success, as highlighted by Jim Camp in his book? In the roaring 1920s, Vincent "Vinny" Caruso was a rising star in the world of mobsters. Known for his cunning and calculated negotiations, Vinny was always looking for ways to improve his skills and gain an edge over his rivals. One day, Vinny stumbled upon a book by Jim Camp called Mastering the Art of Negotiation. Intrigued, he started reading and was immediately captivated by Camp's insights on negotiation strategies. He realized that continuous learning and practice were essential in honing his negotiation skills and achieving success in his line of work. Vinny decided to put Camp's teachings into action. He began studying the book diligently, taking notes and applying the concepts to his negotiations. He learned about the importance of preparation, understanding the other party's interests, and managing emotions during high-stakes negotiations. Vinny also realized that practice was crucial in improving his negotiation skills. He practiced role-playing scenarios with his trusted associates, challenging himself with different negotiation scenarios and experimenting with various strategies. He sought feedback from his peers and learned from his mistakes to constantly refine his approach. As Vinny continued to implement Camp's teachings, he noticed a significant improvement in his negotiations. He became more confident, strategic, and effective in getting what he wanted. He avoided common traps like the yes trap and learned how to handle criticisms and attacks from the other party with grace and poise. Vinny's reputation as a skilled negotiator grew, and he started making significant gains in his business dealings. He secured lucrative deals, expanded his territory, and gained the respect of his peers and rivals alike. But Vinny didn't stop there. He knew that continuous learning was key to staying ahead in the competitive world of mobsters. He kept reading, attending workshops, and seeking feedback from trusted advisors. He never rested on his laurels and always looked for ways to improve his negotiation skills. His dedication to continuous learning and practice paid off. Then he became one of the most respected and feared negotiators in the mobster world of the 1920s. He credited his success to Jim Camp's teachings and his unwavering commitment to constantly improving his negotiation skills through continuous learning and practice. Answer key. Here are the answers to the questions related to the key lessons in the book. Start with number the negotiating tools that the pros don't want you to know by Jim Camp. 1. The importance of starting with no in negotiations, according to Jim Camp's approach, is that it allows you to take control of the negotiation process and set the stage for collaborative problem solving instead of engaging in a traditional back-and-forth exchange of concessions. 2. The strategic use of no in negotiations can open up opportunities for mutual gains and avoid concessions by setting the expectation that concessions will not be given easily, and encouraging the other party to provide justifications for their requests, leading to a more transparent and rational negotiation process. 3. Common traps to watch out for in negotiations include the yes trap, where premature agreement may limit your negotiating power and options, and other manipulative tactics used by the other party to gain an advantage. Jim Camp emphasizes the importance of avoiding falling into such traps and maintaining control of the negotiation process. 4. To effectively handle criticisms or attacks from the other party during negotiations, or attacks as described by Jim Camp, it is essential to stay composed, not take it personally, and respond calmly and rationally with a focus on the issues at hand rather than getting caught up in emotions on personal attacks. 5. Understanding the other party's interests, needs, motivations, and desires, referred to as interests by Jim Camp, is crucial in negotiations as it allows you to dig deeper into their underlying drivers and find mutually beneficial solutions that address those interests, rather than just focusing on positions or demands. 6. Persuasion techniques, such as active listening, effective questioning, and framing your proposals in a way that aligns with the other party's interests, can be used to convince and influence others to accept your point of view or proposal in negotiations, as emphasized by Jim Camp in his book. 7. Deadlocks or obstacles in negotiations may arise, and Jim Camp emphasizes the importance of addressing them proactively and finding creative solutions to move forward, such as reframing the issues, exploring alternative options, or involving a neutral third party to facilitate the resolution. 8. Building solid relationships, establishing trust, rapport, and long-term connections with the other party is crucial for successful negotiations, as emphasized by Jim Camp. Trust and rapport can help create a collaborative environment, foster open communication, and facilitate problem-solving, leading to better negotiation outcomes. 9. Closing the deal and finalizing agreements reached in the negotiation process involves ensuring that all parties have a clear understanding of the terms, documenting the agreement in writing, and securing necessary approvals or signatures, as discussed by Jim Camp in his book. 10. Staying cool under pressure, managing emotions, and maintaining composure in high-pressure negotiation situations are critical skills emphasized by Jim Camp. Techniques such as taking breaks, breathing exercises, and focusing on facts and data can help you stay calm and composed, enabling you to make informed decisions. 11. Continuous learning and practice are essential in improving negotiation skills and achieving success, as highlighted by Jim Camp in his book. Regularly reviewing and applying negotiation techniques, debriefing after negotiations, and seeking feedback from others can help refine your skills and enhance your negotiation performance over time. These answers provide a summary of the key lessons in the book Start With No by Jim Camp, and can serve as a reminder of the important concepts and strategies discussed in the book for successful negotiations. Strategy description. Start With No emphasizes the importance of not being afraid to say no in negotiations, as it can open up opportunities for mutual gains and avoid concessions. Interests highlights the significance of understanding the other party's interests, needs, motivations, and desires to identify common ground for successful negotiations. Persuasion techniques provides insights on utilizing persuasive techniques to convince and influence others to accept your point of view or proposal in negotiations. Handling criticisms. Attacks discusses effective ways of handling criticisms or attacks from the other party during negotiations, including staying calm and managing emotions. Deadlocks. Obstacles provides strategies for overcoming deadlocks or obstacles that may arise during negotiations, including creative problem-solving and finding common solutions. Building relationships emphasizes the importance of building solid relationships, establishing trust, rapport, and long-term connections with the other party for successful negotiations. Closing the deal provides guidance on effectively closing the deal and finalizing agreements reached in the negotiation process, including managing the final steps and details. Managing emotions highlights the significance of staying cool under pressure, managing emotions, and maintaining composure in high-pressure negotiation situations. Continuous learning. Practice emphasizes the importance of continuous learning and practice in improving negotiation skills and achieving success in negotiations. Epilogue. As the sun set behind the city skyline, Jack closed the final chapter of Jim Camp's book Mastering the Art of Negotiation. He sat back in his chair, feeling empowered and enlightened. Over the past few months, Jack had implemented the strategies he had learned from the book and had seen remarkable results in his negotiations. With newfound confidence, Jack had successfully navigated through several high-stakes negotiations in the world of 1920s mobsters. He had learned to start with no, not being afraid to set boundaries and assert his interests. He had honed his persuasion techniques, carefully crafting his proposals to appeal to the motivations and needs of the other party. He had learned to handle criticisms and attacks with calm composure, staying cool under pressure and managing his emotions. He had overcome deadlocks and obstacles with creative problem-solving, finding common ground for win-win solutions. He had built solid relationships, earning trust and establishing long-term connections with key players in the mobster world. And he had effectively closed deals, finalizing agreements that were favorable to his interests. As Jack reflected on his journey, he realized the importance of continuous learning and practice in the art of negotiation. It was not just about mastering a set of techniques, but also about cultivating a mindset of strategic thinking, adaptability, and resilience. He knew that he would continue to refine his negotiation skills, always seeking to improve and achieve greater success. With a renewed sense of purpose, Jack closed the book and stood up. He put on his fedora, straightened his suit, and headed out into the bustling streets of the city. Armed with the knowledge and strategies from Jim Camp's book, he was ready to face any negotiation challenge that came his way. Whether it was striking deals with rival mob bosses or navigating complex business transactions, Jack was now a master of the art of negotiation, and he was ready to leave his mark on the world of 1920s mobsters. The end was just the beginning of his new journey as a skilled negotiator, and he was determined to continue mastering the art of negotiation, one deal at a time.